All right, YouTube, I am making this video in response to Nerdrotic and The Critical Drinker and basically everyone who's done a negative review of TRON Ares. And I just have to say, like, will anything make you happy? Like, at some point, I just think it's a great film. I was expecting, because of all the negative reviews, being kind of a Tron super fan, playing the video games, watching Tron Uprising, obviously the 82 Tron, tons of times, probably like 25 plus times as a child on VHS. Legacy, when it came out, just like blowing my socks off, just like absolutely loving that. I still really love Legacy. And the original Tron and all of that. Daft Punk, incredible. So I came into this really thinking like, okay, it's going to be Disney's flop. It's not going to be very good. But I still have to see it because I'm just too curious about the Tron franchise in general and where the story goes. Because I'd paid attention to some of the reviews, I was able to kind of lower my expectations. I was expecting kind of a 6 out of 10, not something like not egregiously bad, but not anything great. But like, I have to say, like, I think it was an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And I think you're just kind of blinded by hatred at this point if you don't see that. Now, you can have a different opinion and whatever, but if you're just grifting and getting clicks because like, oh, this is the end of Tron because Girl Boss or something, it's like, I don't know, man. I think you're just blinded by hate a little bit. So anyway, wrote a little list, things I love, things I hate about the movie. I'll just start with things I dislike that I think are pretty universal. Comic relief guy, just kind of vapid and like, who is this person and why are they talking about burritos? We could just dispense with that. Now this was a downside that is somewhat unforgivable, and that's just the fact that like this is not a direct sequel to Legacy. For me, I knew that going into it, and I was just expecting a roller coaster ride with like a terrible story. I was like, I'm going to be excited for a roller coaster ride. And so, to partner from Boxleitner, all of that is sad to me. But I think if you have that frame going in, I think you can enjoy it. These are some things that I just absolutely loved. I really liked the MacGuffin aspect of it and having to get the permanence or impermanence code, and that it had multiple locations. I think that's kind of something that was interesting to me, is a MacGuffin that didn't have one single location and one single way to find it, but multiple paths to fix things. If you are familiar with programming at all, you know that there are multiple ways to figure out solutions to things. And so I like that the movie explored that, and kind of there were roadblocks and there were different ways to do things, and kind of keeps the audience on their toes. I thought that was interesting. The soundtrack for Nine Inch Nails was great. I'm not a fan of Nine Inch Nails. Don't really know about them or their work before basically this week. I'm going to be completely honest. I listened to the soundtrack probably like 8 times before I watched the movie. So like, I knew what the tracks sounded like, but I didn't know the scenes that would match up to them. But I just feel like it was very appropriate for the movie. It wasn't quite Daft Punk level. I think I do miss the symphony part of that, kind of mixing. But the real like raw, gritty electronic sounds, I think matched the energy of the movie well, and like elevated the movie and the sense of urgency and attack. The visuals, absolutely no one disagrees. They were phenomenal. They were great. The movie screen that I watched them on was pretty blurry, much more blurry than my TV at home. And I feel like I can't wait to see it at home with literally better graphics and better sound system. And I know what the songs sound like because I listened to them previous to the movie, and the speakers were blown at the theater I was at. So that shouldn't be counted against it. So anyway, visuals great, soundtrack great. These are a couple of like just tiny little things. So Jared Leto, people are like hating on Jared Leto, and there are some things that are like weird. If you look into like 30 Seconds to Mars, there's like some weird thing. So I don't know about that. I'm not gonna make excuses for that. But he acted well. He was great. I was worried that it was gonna be some Morbin time type scenario, and it really wasn't. He intentionally tried to underact in this, and I think that was appropriate, and I think it was cool, and it was not distracting at all. It seemed to be on brand. The only thing I noticed is like his makeup kind of caked up, because like dude's like over 50 at this point, but somehow they made him look like 28 or something. I don't know. It was interesting. So good job on that. One of the most underrated parts of the film is just the sense of urgency. And it's funny because it's kind of the opposite of Legacy, where it's like there's a lot of time, a lot of patience. The reunion of Sam and Kevin Flynn, there was all this time and this like awkward father and son type dinner and reunion and like this kind of ponderous stage and this kind of Zen Buddhism thing, which I really liked. I really liked that time and that patience and that character development. At the same time, I just loved the urgency of this film. And one of the things, this has got to be the thing that was most unexpected that I loved absolutely the most, which is just that when Dillinger was like lecturing Ares and Eve out after they came out of the lasers or whatever, Ares just like tapped on his watch or pointed at the clock or something and was like, we gotta go. I just loved it too, because evil guy monologue, you know, you wonder like in real life, like would anyone listen to a monologue that long if there's someone that was like trying to kill you? Like it's just like a weird, like why would that happen? And so I loved how in the movie, we're just like, no, we don't have time to listen to your monologue. I just loved it so much. It made me like smile from ear to ear. I thought it was hilarious. Everything had this like intense sense of urgency, whether it's like Athena running up the parking garage, trying to, you know, get her bike back and run down Eve, or the 29 minutes, which is, you know, kind of manufactured, but, you know, it's kind of believable. I just loved the speed and the pacing of it. You know, and there's one little thing that I kind of liked which was if you look at some of the behind the scenes stuff with Tron Legacy, you have you know that the de-resing happens in little cubes, like the programs, they break into a million tiny pieces. It's called being de-resed, and you break into these cubes. And you kind of glow blue or orange or whatever. When that happened in the real world, I thought it was really interesting that there were kind of these like glowing red cubes, but if you look closely, or not even that closely, all of that turns into dust, and the dust looks really, really dark, which kind of tells me that they're kind of laser 3D printing or whatever with something like some kind of carbon, you know, carbon-based life forms. Graphite is carbon, diamonds are carbon. It would make sense if these life forms are somehow kind of carbon-based, and so that they are made of material, and they are that's kind of the substance that things are made out of, which would be kind of interesting. That's not really explored, by like just being given ideas to be able to chew on. I am really excited to buy the movie and watch it at home, because it seems like beyond the fast-paced roller coaster, you know, everything, I want to look at some of the symbolism, and this really surprised my wife, but there's tons of symbolism going on, lots of things to think about, like what is intelligence, what is artificial intelligence, what does it mean to be human? Specifically, what does does a large amount of information humanize someone? You know, we see Ares gain kind of an empathetic response. The name of the the name of the track by Nine Inch Nails, one of them is called Empathetic Response. And, so you wonder, like, is that a necessity if something is intelligent enough that they can start to perceive emotions and things like that? Does that humanize them? Does that make them not want to just go hog wild and destroy everything? That's an interesting question. I think the coolest thing symbolically to me was, Eve Kim is looking into the permanence code, to finish her sister's legacy. And the first thing that they decided to materialize was an orange tree. I initially hated this. I thought, what is going on here? And it felt so random, felt not Tron at all. So I was like, what is this? And I'm like, duh. Her name is Eve, as in Mother Eve, eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's like so in your face if you think about it. It's like why would they produce a tree? And so the symbolism of that and the imagery of that was lost on me for like a minute until it hit me, and it was like, duh. So I feel like there are more of those Easter eggs and more of those kind of like important symbols that are throughout. And I think it adds depth and some interesting things. A lot of people talk about these possibilities and these questions that the film raises but doesn't answer as like lost, like lost opportunities or something like that. And I just think like, well, that's cool. Like I can just talk about those with my wife and whoever wants to talk. Those are just kind of like delicious nuggets that we can pick up and then we can talk about and we can kind of formulate and argue over. And that to me is like quite enjoyable. And so, a movie doesn't have to be all things to all people, and you don't have to like it, but I think I liked it for all those reasons. And the dialogue wasn't like that amazing, but the whole experience was honestly pretty good. I liked it. I hope we see Sam and Cora, obviously, and if you could do a magical reunion for Daft Punk, that would be cool. Or Nine Inch Nails did a good job. I just think the Tron universe is pretty cool, and if Disney doesn't do it, then in a couple years with generative artificial intelligence, then I'll start making cool Tron content or whatever. But I liked it. I think it's a movie that made me want to be better, made me want to have an empathetic response and to be strong and to make a difference in the world and to drive safely. Other than that, I just had to share my thoughts. Just enjoy stuff once in a while. Just try it. You don't have to like Disney. I kind of hate Disney myself, but you don't have to hate everything, do you? All right.